I first noticed the quiet way he watched me long before I ever let myself acknowledge it. Evan had been at our house 100 times over the years. Study sessions with my son, late-night movie marathons, weekend visits where the boys ate everything in the kitchen and left trails of laughter across the hallway. I'd always thought of him as part of the background of their growing-up years, a polite, calm presence who balanced out my son's louder energy. But something shifted the year they both finished college. I felt it the moment Evan stepped inside my home that evening. He looked older, still gentle around the eyes, still carrying that soft-spoken warmth, but taller somehow, steadier, like he had grown into himself while life had moved past me in a blur. "Hi, Mrs. Hale," he said, smiling in a way that made my breath catch for reasons I didn't fully understand. "Just call me Myra," I told him, as I always did. But this time the name felt different coming from him. More personal. He held my gaze a moment longer than necessary before setting down the small box of pastries he'd brought. My son left early for an overnight shift, leaving me and Evan in the living room with a half-watched movie playing quietly in the background. For a while, we talked about ordinary things, work, plans, the way life never moves the way you expect it to. And somewhere between the last act of the movie and the soft hum of the lamp behind him, the conversation changed. He asked how I'd been doing. Really doing. No one had asked me that in a long time. I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal, but his expression was open, patient, as if he could already sense the truth beneath the surface. So I told him. I told him about feeling like the days were blurring together, about the quietness of the house now that my son was working more, about how strange it felt to no longer know exactly what my life was supposed to be. He listened, not the distracted nodding most people give, but with his entire focus, as if my words mattered more than I believed they did. When I stopped talking, he leaned forward slightly. "You don't give yourself enough credit," he said softly. "You've held everything together for so long. You deserve more than just getting through the days." Something warm unfurled inside me at his words, something I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was quiet, like someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. I looked away, unsure of what expression he might read on my face. "You sound older than your age," I whispered. He smiled a little. "I've always noticed more than people think." Hours passed without either of us really noticing. The house had settled into that late evening stillness, the kind that makes voices softer and emotions sharper. Eventually, I got up to make him tea, trying to steady myself, but I could feel his gaze following me, not intrusive, not bold, just present. When I set the cup in front of him, our hands brushed. A small moment, barely anything, yet it sent a quiet wave through me. He paused, too, just for a breath, but neither of us pulled away immediately. It should have been awkward. It wasn't. The night stretched on peacefully until he finally said he should leave. But when he stood near the doorway, he hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" he said. I nodded. "Do you ever feel like someone sees you in a way you haven't been seen in a long time?" My heartbeat skittered, not from fear but from recognition. I knew exactly what he meant. I had felt it all night, the way the air subtly shifted whenever our eyes met, the unspoken understanding settling between us like a quiet truth. But I didn't know what answer would be safe, or right, or allowed. So I said nothing. He exhaled softly, as if he already understood the words I couldn't say. "I'm not trying to make things complicated," he murmured. "I just want you to know, you're not invisible. Not to me." Something inside me tightened and loosened all at once. Before I could form a reply, he stepped outside, offering me a small smile before the door clicked shut. The days after that were strange. I found myself replaying moments I had no business replaying, the sincerity in his voice, the warmth in his gaze, the way I felt unexpectedly alive in his presence. It was confusing, unexpected, and quietly unnerving. I told myself it was just a passing feeling, that he was only being kind, that I was reading into things because my life had grown too quiet. But when he returned a week later, another casual visit, another easy evening, it all resurfaced. We ended up sitting on the porch this time, wrapped in the soft glow of dusk. He spoke about his plans, his uncertainties, his desire to build a life that felt meaningful. And then he asked about mine. No one ever asks a woman my age about dreams. Responsibilities. Yes. Practicalities. Yes. But dreams. Almost never. Something inside me broke open at the question. I'm not sure anymore, I admitted. I used to think I knew. Now, I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something I can't quite name. He looked at me with an expression so earnest it nearly unraveled me. Maybe it's not something, he said quietly. Maybe it's someone. Silence wrapped around us like a soft blanket. The world felt very still, as if waiting for a truth to surface. Evan, I said, barely above a whisper. You don't have to say anything, he replied. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I just care. More than I expected. More than I probably should. The confession hung in the air, gentle and fragile. I felt it settle deep in my chest, not frightening, not overwhelming, just real. And for the first time, I allowed myself to acknowledge what had been growing quietly between us. I care too, I said, my voice unsteady but honest. I just don't want either of us to get hurt. He nodded slowly. We don't have to rush anything. We don't even have to define it. I just want to be someone you don't have to hide from. His words settled into me like warmth after a long winter. We didn't touch, didn't cross any lines. But the emotional closeness, the understanding, felt more intimate than anything physical could have been. It was a connection that grew not from impulsive choices but from being seen, deeply and without judgment. When he left that night, he paused at the door again, but this time there was no uncertainty. Only a quiet promise. Whenever you're ready, he said softly. Even if it's just friendship. Even if it's just company. I'll be here. And for the first time in a long while, I believed someone.